Well, as a young artist, I started just drawing mostly because that's how you could get attention. And like any psychologist will tell you, if you get attention from doing something, you'll continue to do it. This is where I get my material. Every time it rains, you can find, this is some kind of styrofoam. You'll find it all over here.
Time's a soft way her mouth to dress, breaking all the rules. I'm going down, down for you.
If someone hasn't seen my work before, I tend to describe it as landscape painting, maybe contemporary landscape painting. So what I'll do is pick it all up and put it in my pocket and bring it back. Whenever I try to explain it to someone, it ends up getting very long-winded and very confusing, and I usually just end up saying, that's landscape painting. It's got to keep raining, otherwise I'll run out of supplies. Well, I use the styrofoam in my work to kind of symbolize this thing that's man-made, but omnipresent in the landscape. So it's not very difficult to find this stuff everywhere you go. So sometimes I'll use a spatula to scrape the paint across the surface and let the paint kind of act as paint and not appear so representational. I also like the way that it kind of scumbles along the surface.
To a strange world, like a candle you were meant to share the fire. I don't know where we come from, I don't know where we go, but my arms are made to hold you, so I will never let you go, 'cause you were born.
So there's land here, and in the center of this scene, I'm gonna create some type of industry that moves in and kind of is built upon that land. The stuff that's around this is going to be more deliberate and organized because it's a city. So city planning is much different than, a natural prairie or a forest. I think of it as experience and memory. So when I go out into a forest, I walk through the forest and I'm experiencing these vignettes moment by moment. And by vignettes, I mean, there's maybe you walk down a hill and you remember that moment of walking down the hill, or you come across a pond and then you remember seeing that or spending the time there, and then you move on to a new place. And you start to think about the ecosystem. In general, it's overwhelming. It's impossible for one person to understand what's even going on in 1 foot of space in the forest. And that complexity and that density has always been a part of my work.
To chase the light, 'cause you were born.
It's like, you think that's just a city? Well, no, it's there used to be oak savanna there, and before the oak savanna, it used to be hunted by, Dakota and Sioux, and before that, it's like the history of spaces we often forget about. This is nature, like dead nature, and then culture. So you've got coffee cups, styrofoam. It's like, this is the perfect blending pot right here. This is like reality, what exists. I've got this type of framework established here, and the water works great because I can go and erase things. So like this area right here, if I spray that up close, you can see that like any paint that was still wet will start to fall away. And you get this pattern of decay, and then having that actually happen on the surface of the painting always seemed interesting. In order to hold them, they need to dry like that. Think about what's represented two-dimensionally, and sometimes try to create a complement to it three-dimensionally. This all started by, I made some paintings that had 2 or 3 sheets of paper on it, and I would go through and I would rip through them, and then I'd start painting the next scene onto that, as though it's like a moment in time, and then you pass through the threshold of that moment into the next stage. The paint that dripped down would pool up inside of these like relief areas. I thought, okay, well that relief area then becomes a lake. Well, what's going to happen around a lake? You're going to get, there's water there, so you're going to have growth up around the lake. So it seemed like a rich place to kind of start putting the relief elements in, just having them, you know, stand there like that, because they can't. Because the paper comes out in relief, then the objects can use that as a foothold to start. It's like on a side of a cliff. Any rock that comes out, there's going to be something that's growing on there, whereas on the cliff face, it's much more rare. When I bring sculptural elements in, or like pieces from the land, I have a tendency to think about modes of representation. You have an illusionistic space that's painted where people can go in with their mind. You have a space that actually comes out that people can move around with their body. And then you have these like fake kind of model type materials that are produced on there. Trees that I make from sedum, or like, you know, the architectural type of things. So I started fooling around with various plastic bags. The idea that you can take and make a form that looks like something natural out of something that's, you know, petroleum based and completely destructive, and have that in this landscape, that's kind of important, because the landscape itself seems very picturesque, but you know, these are the things that we use on a daily basis that are the antithesis to this kind of idea. All of these different modes of representation get introduced into this sculptural mix, and it's kind of left to the viewer to negotiate how those things blend together. And if I just made beautiful paintings, what I'm trying to get at within the work would be lost. You know, so if I can introduce as much garbage as possible from the land into the work, that kind of reflects on the state of land today, as well as making the painting a little bit more realistic to me. I want it to feel like I'm present in the land in general, you know, and it contains all of the thoughts that I have. I think that's how I want to just keep making it more and more realistic in that sense. When I look at a landscape painting, I think that's like 1/12 of the story.